Welcome to Scare Talk, a horror movie podcast for horror film reviews, ratings, rankings, and rumors. Now for your hosts, Danny, Joel, and Katrina.
Okay, this is Scare Talk. I am Danny, and I am here with Joel of the Jungle.
Hey guys, what's up?
We've got Kodiak Katrina.
Hey.
And we have a very special guest, Cocaine Chris. Ooh.
Yeah, you're gonna explain why those nicknames tie in.
Yeah,
It's not just like
that's just your name.
Oh yeah.
It's my
That's
legal
all people
name.
call you?
Yep. It's my Christian name.
Okay.
Right?
So today, yes, he is Cocaine Chris because we're going to talk about the 2023 film Cocaine Bear. So Joel,
Yes,
can you tell us who is a part of this one?
I can. So this one stars Carrie Russell. She was she's the star of Felicity. She did 84 episodes of that. She was yeah. She's also in Bedtime Stories with Adam Sandler.
Yeah.
Okay.
And more recently we did this one a couple years ago, but Antlers, the horror movie Antlers. And we've got O'Shea Jackson Jr., aka Ice Cube's son.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
That's right.
I had
looks just like him.
wondered. Yes.
I think Ice Cube was originally cast to be in the movie, but there were some COVID complications, and so they cast
I didn't know
his son.
that.
Yeah.
I mean, makes sense. He was an anaconda, so like, why not? Cocaine Bear.
Keep it in the family.
And I heard he might be
Exactly.
an ayahuasca anaconda, the spin-off movie they're going to make. No,
Oh man.
it's going on the
Okay.
different animals
O'Shea-
and drug movies.
Yeah. O'Shea Jackson Jr. was starred in Straight Outta Compton as Ice Cube,
Okay.
Den of Thieves, and Godzilla King of the Monsters.
Nice.
And then we got R.I.P. Ray Liotta, which I think is his last movie he ever did.
Wow.
He was in Goodfellas, Smoking Aces, Operation Dumbo Drop, Identity, and B Movie, of course.
I love the movies that you choose to name for these people.
I know.
Well, if you don't know Ray Liotta, yeah,
you know him from B Movie, obviously,
Yeah.
and Operation Dumbo Drop. I mean,
Right.
that's just a classic. This was written by Jimmy Warden. He wrote The Babysitter, Killer Queen, and a new movie coming out. It's in post-production called Borderline, which also stars Tamara Weaving. So two of the three movies he's written stars Tamara Weaving. So I'm wondering why she didn't star in this one. She could have been like the Carrie Russell character, but
yeah.
And then this was directed by Elizabeth Banks, who is normally a comedic actress, and she directed Charlie's Angels 2019.
Okay.
Everyone's favorite movie.
Mhm.
She directed Pitch Perfect 2
Oh.
and
movie 43, right?
movie 43, which
That's got a high
Yeah,
Rotten Tomato rating, right?
Phoenix.
Isn't that like
Oh man,
4%
I
on Rotten
personally,
Tomatoes?
it's something like that. I personally liked it. It's a
series of
crazy,
sketches, and half of them
Yeah.
are pretty funny. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
with like an all-star cast, which is just crazy. But yeah, she directed a segment of that. So yeah,
Nice. All right, cool.
Carrie Russell and Margot Martindale were also just on the FX show The Americans, with which is a really good show about like Russian spies, and I believe the guy who like jumped out of the plane at the beginning was also
in the beginning of the
connection
Oh.
of those three. Yeah.
Oh man,
Yeah.
Awesome.
And a handful of them were in some Star Wars stuff recently, but I know this is a horror podcast and not a a sci-fi.
Yeah, Danny's not a sci-fi person, so
No. Or Harry Potter.
No.
Or Lord
Fantasy,
of the Rings.
sci-fi.
Yeah, that's all right.
I can dip into sci-fi a little bit, but
Oh, I can dip into the fantasy a little bit.
Yeah.
Sci-fi, leave me alone.
all right. So for Cocaine Bear, this one is the synopsis is an oddball group of cops, criminals, and tourists and teens converge on a Georgia forest where a huge black bear goes on a murderous rampage after unintentionally ingesting cocaine, based on true events.
Loosely.
Do we know that it was unintentional? We don't know that.
I was going to say the same thing.
Yeah.
It may have been unintentional the very first time, but it should have been unintentional later.
Once he gets a taste for blood.
Maybe he had a wild high school and college experience and continued on.
Yeah. Maybe at the beginning, but then he was very intentional later in the movie.
Yes.
About seeking it out. So
yeah. He was trying to get that high back. He was just trying to get that cocaine. So attacking anyone that got in his way.
That's what you do. You know?
Once you're addicted, like that's it.
So we're gonna stay away from spoilers since this is brand new. We'll give our kind of overall feelings about the film. We'll give it a rating, and then we'll get into some spoilers and some fun facts.
Yes.
All right. So, Chris, since you are Cocaine Chris, let's hear from you first.
If I may, too. If I could give a short resume. Before I was Cocaine Chris, I was Blockbuster Chris. I worked at Blockbuster Video for 11 years. I consider myself a cinephile. I have a obsession with the art of film.
Cocaine.
I think I have a good yes. Well, one obsession's always leads to another, but Ray Liotta was also in the movie Blow, if we're talking about, no, I'm just kidding. But I say all this to mean that, like, Danny and I talk about movies a lot, and we don't always see eye to eye on a lot of them. And this was one where I was like, I have a lot to say about this movie because I just saw it yesterday. I usually, when I go into a movie with like a excited, high expectation, I'm usually disappointed. Yeah. This one, I really enjoyed. I very much enjoyed it. I just thought it was a fun movie, and I'm excited to talk to you guys about it. So I don't know. I just thought, without getting too detailed, soundtrack was awesome. I thought the cast was amazing. I thought everyone did a great job. I thought it was just a fun, over-the-top, silly, can't be taken too seriously movie that some movies just need to be a fun ride and don't have to be like a good movie or like well-made, But I thought this one was well-made and checked all the boxes that I wanted going in with the expectations I had.
Okay, so what were the expectations? Was it just kind of exactly what you got, or?
I saw the preview and I saw like the Red Band trailer and saw like the over-the-top mega violence of it, which I personally am okay with and find entertaining if it's silly. I know you like Terrifier fans and stuff like that don't mind the over violence also. Like if it's in I saw somebody describe it as like the scene in Pulp Fiction when Vincent Vega accidentally shoots the guy in the head in the backseat. And it's just like a shock moment, but it's funny, and it's not supposed to be funny.
Right.
And so I went to this knowing it's like takes place in the 80s. It's going to have that vibe. It's going to be funny because, just again, what the trailer sort of set forth, and that it was going to be super violent, like over the top, not to be taken at all seriously, that it was supposed to be silly.
Yeah.
And it was. And I loved that. And I just thought there was a good enough sense of humor. I thought the kills were unique and fun as much as they could be. And I just thought it wasn't too long. It's a 90-minute. You just clock in,
Mm-hmm.
go on that ride, clock out, and I was entertained the entire time.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Okay, cool. So Joel, what did you think? Well, we'll start with your expectations. Kind of, what did you think going in?
Well, I mean, it was pretty much the same as Chris. I saw the trailer, and it's Cocaine Bear. Like, it's it's the name speaks for itself. It speaks for like the kind of movie you're gonna get.
Yeah.
And it was, I mean, it was a lot of fun. I really had a lot of fun with this movie. It really did do everything that I mean, it didn't give you more than what the trailer showed you.
Mm-hmm.
It gave you exactly that, which was just like a bear hopped up on cocaine who just goes on a killing spree. Like that's that's what the trailer gave you, and that's pretty much what this movie gave you. There were some character stuff here and there, which some of it I liked and some of it I didn't really care for.
Okay.
It was a pretty big cast for a movie like this, but it was just for like, for the bear to kill. Basically, it was just like most people.
I think they introduced a good amount of characters that were like, here's your serving bear.
Yeah.
Like, here you go. Some of those characters we could have done without their like side stories.
Yeah.
Not nearly needed, but I appreciate the effort, I guess.
Yeah.
They were there strictly to be killed.
I was hoping for a lot of over the top kills, and I was happy every time that there was like a new character introduced, because I was like, okay, they're not a main character, so they're probably not going to live.
Yeah.
We'll get to see.
There's really no main characters in this movie. They're all basically like. You got Kerry Russell, who's kind of the like as
and
Aldrin
Ehrenreich or whatever, the son,
and
he was Han Solo in the Solo movie. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So he's got him and Kerry Russell are probably the main characters.
Mm-hmm. But even then, like they don't have that much screen time in the movie, so. Yeah. You could say that they're both still supporting characters.
Yeah. Well, the main character was the bear, right?
Well, yeah, but I almost felt the kids were kind of the main character.
The titular character for sure.
Yeah,
the kids. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No, it definitely started that way too, right? Like, the movie started with that, and I think that the interesting thing about it is that, and what I explained to somebody else is that the plot was so simple and basic. And like, if you look at it as like, how was the story of this movie? It was dumb. It was not a meaty, good plot. It wasn't a deep story, but that's exactly the kind of plot and story that a movie like this needs. It needs to be that simple, basic canvas.
Yeah.
To be able to give you the things that you want. You don't want to get waste time giving me more backstory of these characters or anything. I want funny. And I want kills. And I want some bear doing cocaine.
Yeah.
Those are the three things I want, and all three boxes got checked.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, I would say maybe a negative would be there were times when I was like, okay, let's get to the bear. You know?
Right.
There was too much human interaction in this movie, if anything.
Yeah.
So what do you think, Katrina, about
Well, I had very different expectations going in.
Oh, all right.
So I don't watch trailers. So even when trailers come on, I kind of try to ignore them.
Yeah. We'll see. What was it? Something recently, and I'll be like, yeah, let's go see this. And we've been seeing the trailer like, I don't know, 5 different movies that we saw in theaters. We see the same trailer. And then I tell her, okay, it's coming out. Let's go see it. She's like, which one is that again?
Right.
Like, she doesn't pay attention to the trailers.
Yeah.
Except for
that's good. But you do that on purpose, right?
Yes. So I'm very intentional because I do not like trailers. I don't like, especially if I feel like the trailer is starting to give you too much.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm not going to pay attention. Because I do not want the movie given away from me. And that is what trailers do.
It's happened too many times.
Yeah.
It has.
I have been burned by trailers. So I was thinking, okay, this is based off like a true event.
Right.
So I was thinking like it would have more information about the actual true events that happened.
Okay.
And really I thought it was going to take itself more seriously, like much more seriously than it did. And with that, I was like, okay, let's see, what this is. Because it's going to be
so
like,
at what point did you realize it wasn't that movie?
Probably, well,
like pretty early on.
Pretty early on. So it started with like the news scene, so like
right. So yeah.
So I was like, okay, this is serious. Yeah. And then like the acting at the beginning, I was like, I even like leaned over and asked Danny, like, is the acting supposed to be horrible? Like, what is this? And then I think it was pretty quick after that I was like, oh, this is gonna be funny. And I was glad, because my thought going into it was, okay, how are they gonna make this like serious thing and have a bear on cocaine? This, how are we gonna do this? And I was very glad that they didn't take it too seriously.
I would have thought the opening scene when the guy knocks himself out of the plane would have been a telltale sign that it's not taking itself serious.
Pretty big.
And while he's dancing and doing karate moves, probably on a class 1 narcotic. On the topic of the real story, I don't know, are you guys gonna go over that, like what the true events were that it's based on?
Yes. I can look it up. I was gonna look at the
I was just gonna explain that like the true story is not really exciting.
It's not really.
A bunch of cocaine got dropped, a bear got a hold of it, and like overdose, died of a heart attack. It's now stuffed and on display in a mall in Knoxville, Tennessee or something. So a bear didn't go on a killing spree or anything like that. So like most inspired by true events movies, they have to, zhuzh it up a little bit and add something to it. I think with a movie like this, it's tough because there are a lot of movies out there. There are the Sharknado movies and the, the movies that are like, we know what this is. It's meant to be silly. And I think if you don't go in knowing that it's going to be this, it could be a bad movie experience for you.
It could.
And that's why it's tough to like, that's why it's tough for me to like, and when we get to it, to like give it a rating, like my score of it, because if I'm giving it a score on like, is this a good movie or is this a something that everyone would like or most people would like? It's not. Like you really, I think if you're in a minority of people who this movie is for, it's going to be your favorite movie of this year. And I think for the majority of other people, it's going to be like either what was that or it was too much. I can see people walking out of the theater and thinking it's stupid or too over the top. But I think if you're the kind of person that likes and can buy into the camp and can buy into the silliness of it, it's really enjoyable. And I think that's like a breath of fresh air for me, because how many movies come out there like that? So many take themselves so seriously, and are either trying to have a message or be up for Oscar contention.
Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey.
Or whatever, or something like that, where they're just trying to get a footing in the film industry so they can get more deals. There's always seems to be an agenda, and I think this one was just like, let's just hope it's good. I think Elizabeth Banks like hit a home run. I think she directed it really well, because the other movie, I'm a big fan of her as an actress. Her previous directorial movies, not a big fan of. Just not my cup of tea.
You don't like Pitch Perfect 2? Come on.
I actually don't mind the Pitch Perfect movies, but I don't own them. I own a lot of movies. They do not grace my DVD show. But I think that there was even some really good like cinematography and edits, and they didn't show all the kills, probably because they shot them, they CGI'd it, and they're like, it just looks too bad, it looks too cheesy. Let's show less and make it a better movie. And I had even heard that one of the characters in the movie who sort of gets killed, you like hear them. They cut the scene because it was like a face being ripped off, and it was just too. It took you away, it took you out of it. It was just like, nah, I don't. That doesn't look. You know, and the kills are really over the top and really not believable, and some of them are really funny when it's happening.
Yeah.
I think my favorite scene in the movie is a hand that's barely hanging on, trying to fight away the bear, and it's just sort of flopping there while they're fighting. And it's, I'm not supposed to be laughing at this, but I am tears like laughing.
Yeah. Well, one thing that I liked about the humor though is it wasn't forced humor. It wasn't like these like one-liner jokes or just like this like trying to be super funny. It was just funny. It was just naturally funny.
Yeah.
And some of the jokes fell short. Some could have gone like, it was like, oh, you should have gone here. Where there were some were just like, all right, we get it. It's a bear on cocaine. You know, they're not all going to be home runs, but I just thought it was the kids were really funny. I just thought there were so many characters that I was kind of like, oh, I hope they don't die too soon because I kind of dig this character. Like they're funny. They're adding something that I'm enjoying on top of the coked up bear that's killing people. Like,
Right.
Yeah.
So the bear itself actually looked pretty good for you know, obviously a CGI bear. It's not a real bear. For the most part, I want to say there was a couple of times where it was like, okay, that's I'm not looking too good there. But for the most part, it was good, like better than the lion in Beast. I thought that one was okay. This one was done very well, and I think you're right, Chris, that they kind of knew where the line was with the bear and when it looked bad, when when to cut, when to keep.
But you know, they call that with CGI with humans like the uncanny valley, right? Like that area of filmmaking where if they try to make it look too realistic, but you know what you're watching is not supposed to be, it takes you out of it. And even like the close-up shots of the bear where you see like a scar and of course like the powdered nose, you know. I was waiting for a time where I was like, all right, like that's totally CGI, but I kept reminding myself as I was watching it, like this actually looks really good. Like, and they didn't mask it behind like a dark setting. It all took place at night, so we'll mask it with that. Most of the movie took place during the day, out in the open. And I think that they were smart in taking probably out some scenes where you saw the bear doing more of a kill that probably looked too silly or too unrealistic. So they're like, you know, we better just leave that out and we'll instead have this killing, you know.
Have like a leg fly out.
We did that a couple times.
All right, cool. So
what was your expectations?
Oh yeah, I didn't talk about kind of been throwing things in, but I think I had the same expectations as Joel and Chris. I didn't expect to like it that much. I thought, you know, okay, it's a silly concept. But like even with Beast, I would like animal attack movies. I'm like, okay, not really too excited about that. This one they threw in the gimmick with the cocaine and stuff, so it was a little more interesting. But I was really just hoping for good kills and just a good laugh. That's kind of what I was expecting, and I think it pretty much met that, I would say. Yeah.
Okay.
And I think the other reason a movie like this can do well is, unlike Beast or other animal attack movies, like you're saying, is that those are more serious movies. They're like, they're trying to put you in an emotional state of like, oh, I would be scared if I were in this situation, you know? Where this one, right when you buy your ticket, if you know, and you know that you're getting into hopping on a ride where it's like, this is meant to not take itself seriously. I'm not, this isn't a realistic attack event. And so, and they lay that out pretty early when, you know, the bear like does a bump off a severed leg which was in the trailer too. And that was one of those things where I was like, oh, I wish I didn't see that in the trailer because like it ruined a joke for me or whatever. But I think it helps that it is not based in reality, sort of. You know what I mean? Yeah. So you're able to like have more like suspended disbelief.
Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah, and like in a movie like Beast, where the CGI wasn't the best, it's supposed to be a serious movie. Then the CGI isn't the best, so then it really takes you out. And so this one, like I said, with that extra gimmick kind of thrown in, I was going in thinking, okay, I'll get some good laughs. I will say that the humor, like Chris said, kind of fell flat. Some of it was a little redundant. But for the most part, I enjoyed the characters. I thought they all did a good job. And Ray Liotta, it was cool to see him again, playing a kind of a classic Ray Liotta type of character.
Pretty much.
Yeah, I always like whoever he plays in movies. It's always good. So
this was cool. Even I found myself enjoying him because it wasn't as like quiet or reserved or like. He usually is like a gangster that has to say less because he carries this thing. And I felt like he was, like all the characters, were good 80s characters, set in 1985. And I think you got a sense of like the type of character these were in this time, And I thought he did a good job playing that. And these characters all had their motivations, right? Like he was the drug kingpin who wanted the money, and his son was going through a grief of his wife's loss, and the mom wants to find her kids, and the ranger is got a crush on this guy, and like you get right away what everyone's motivations are. And some of them they take maybe a little too far, like the cop with the dog thing.
That
whole storyline could have been taken out, and I would have been totally fine with that. But maybe some people are like, all right, that appealed to me. Whatever. I thought for the most part, about 80% of those little, you got the character's deal. And I really was impressed right away how they explained Ray Liotta, his grandson, his son, and that they're going through a grief of a lost wife. They explained that all in like 3 lines. And it wasn't just on the nose. We're just gonna say his wife just died. Now I'm watching his kid, and the way they explained some of the things, it was really well written. I thought,
it was natural.
The dialogue, at least,
the dialogue was well written.
The story was not, but
but the dialogue, like especially how that character, Ray Liotta's character, like brought it up. Like, I'm sick of watching my son's kid, and he was just very honest and real about it, and it didn't seem like he was just checking off a box of a line that I have to say to make sure the story makes sense. I was glad that they did give us a little bit of how he lost his wife, because I was like the whole time like, what happened to her? I want to know. I want to understand what he went through. So I was glad that they gave some answers to that. And
they made funny out of every serious thing. They added something kind of funny to. Like whether it be I thought the soundtrack was great, and whether it be a song that's playing in the background during a moment. And just on that note, just as like the first thing out the gate where I'm like, I love this movie. The opening song, Jane by Jefferson Starship, is the opening song of one of my favorite comedies of all time, Wet Hot American Summer, which was Elizabeth Banks, basically her first movie. I think she was in one other movie before that. That was her first like main movie. And I just thought like awesome little Easter egg, awesome little tip of the hat to like your career. And the soundtrack not only set the scene as the early mid 80s really well, but like On the Wings of Love while he's like mourning and crying in the car in the truck, on the drive. And like it's you like feel for him, you feel bad, but you're also like, this is kind of a funny thing.
When that song first hit, I was like, oh man, this is cool. I love this song. That right at the beginning.
Back on the dialogue. There was a scene towards the beginning with like the the cop that has the dog and the other cop that was with him. I forgot what exactly was said in that scene, but she like says something or asks him something, and then he just like looks at her and like walks away. I'm like, oh, okay, well, I guess we're done with that moment then. Like I was like, I was expecting. I think that was supposed to be one of those laugh moments, but I was like, okay, well, we're just gonna.
Right.
Yeah, their interaction, their initial interaction was a little weird. He's like, yeah, you have a dog, right? And blah blah blah. And then it's like, well, why are they talking about dogs? Like, what?
Yeah.
So,
and I still don't know if he had a crush on her or not.
Yeah.
Like, I think they made it seem like he did, but I don't.
Yeah.
I feel like there's so many movies that come out these days that are one rewrite away. They just need to hire like a good stand-up comedian or just like some funny person to come in and punch up a couple jokes and just be like, it'll be a little bit funnier to do this.
Jokes or like, because I was so confused with his whole like the whole dog storyline in general, like that I didn't understand
it was weird.
That was, and it didn't ever seem to really come to an end or a close of anything.
I think the only real purpose for it was the payoff with that dog and what happens with that dog.
Eventually
to wrap it, to put a bow on that storyline. I don't think anything in the movie is supposed to be serious. I think everything is for the purpose of a joke or to make you want somebody to die or be okay if they die. And I think some people die and some people don't without saying which is which, but I think everyone who dies, like, I was okay with. I had no like, but I really like that. You know, like, I think they chose that well too, because they don't always do that in movies.
Right. I would say there was one character where I was like, at least not at that moment. I wanted that character to live a little longer.
Oh, I'm excited to hear who that is.
Off this, we'll figure that out.
During spoilers.
I mean, in horror movies, I do like there to be at least one character where like it's a gut punch when they get taken out.
I felt like there was
a gut punch.
Literal.
Wink. A gut punch.
Something that you want to feel. You want to feel something for these characters sometimes. And when you have a whole. Like there was 20 people in this movie, like maybe slightly less than that, but around then. And when you don't really feel anything for like really anybody that dies for the most part, like for that, it kind of took maybe a point away from me because I like to like feel something even in horror movies when someone dies. So, but yeah, I mean, for the most part, the characters that died, you kind of saw coming for the most part. Like there were at least 3 that I knew were not going to be touched. Like, at least 3, maybe even 5. I was like, you're not going to kill them off. It would have been interesting if they had killed off at least one of them, but I mean,
it would have taken a dark turn.
They had a couple. I mean, there was a scene that took a dark turn towards the beginning that I was not expecting them to do.
I think I know what you're talking about. And I agree.
Like, all right, we're doing this, but we'll get to that in the spoilers.
So, do you think there weren't any kills that really were powerful for you, Joel?
I mean, we didn't really
gut wrenching.
Gut punch, gut wrenching. We didn't really
something that just tore your insides out. Like
no, like the bear.
Were you crying?
There weren't really any. I was bawling in this movie. I mean, we didn't really get to know any of the characters really for there to be a connection to. But
and the funny thing I think is the one that, if anything, I had the most emotional attachment to that I was like, oh no, was the very first one.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say, but I wasn't saying
and the one that you have the least knowledge, time, or connection with the character. That one was like that one kind of sucked a little bit.
Yeah, that one was real. Yeah, I felt like that was super powerful. I did.
Super. Are you talking opening scene or like?
Yeah. I mean, like
because there's, I mean,
we'll figure it out
pretty early on in the movie, so.
We'll talk about it in the spoilers.
Okay.
All right. Let's get
all right.
Let's get to it. Let's get to a
comedic effect, but
let's go to our ratings, and then we'll talk about that stuff. So, Chris, let's start with you.
Well, so if I could, I might give it 2 ratings because or I'll give it the 1. I'll give my main one for me as a movie fan who wants something different, doesn't want the same movie experience. I'm okay to suspend disbelief. I'm okay with the mega gore violence, and just it was exactly what I wanted. I'm giving it an 87.15.
Oh wow. Okay.
It was,
I think it's
for entertainment. For entertainment.
Yeah.
For like me, I bought the ticket. I want to be entertained for an hour and a half.
Cool.
On just take a step back and be a fair movie reviewer, I'd give it a 68.
Oh wow, that's a huge
I think it was. I think, but that's because I think there is a huge demographic that will hate this movie, that it will not appeal to. I mean, and so they made this movie with like, this is for you weirdos out there that are going to like this.
To be fair, well, I mean, like, since the title is Cocaine Bear, I feel like that helps with.
It may, but I think to your point earlier, it might hurt with the inspired by a true story. I think some people might go in expecting that, like, like I don't know if you guys saw Grizzly Man, about the guy who stayed with the documentary. Like, there might be some people who don't know anything about this movie. I never have understood it, but I know there are people who go to the theaters and they're just like, let's see what's playing and pick a movie and go see it, knowing nothing about any of them.
Yeah,
that's not me. I could never do that. I could never do that. But and not to go off point too quickly, but I was listening to your guys' episode about Bone Tomahawk, and you asked the question of, did it do itself a disservice by splitting the 2 genres, the horror and Western, and that maybe if it was just a Western, it would have reached a broader audience.
Right.
Most people have never heard of that movie, and it's a great movie.
Yeah, it is.
I kind of feel the same thing with this. If they were just going for comedy and not uber violent, I would show this movie to my parents, and they would get a kick out of it. If they just went uber violent and not the comedy, I think a lot of horror thriller fans, and they took the silly out of it, would like it. And so I think they did split some demographics because of that. And that's why I scale back on the stand back bird's eye view ranking. Right. I'm buying it on Blu-ray when it comes out. I will see this movie another 5 times. I am a fan of this movie, 87%, whatever.
To be fair to your 68?
Yeah.
On IMDb, it has a 6.5, so it's pretty close.
Yeah, so. And that's tough too. Like I've had to start not paying attention to IMDb and Rotten Tomatoes and things like that, because you look at something like Rotten Tomatoes and the critics score and the fan score can be so different in a movie, and it's like, who am I? What group do I agree with or identify with? You know, so it's tough. And I just think this is one of those movies that is not like most, where you can't really give a fair assessment of a score. It has to be like I have to give it this caveat that I'm giving this score because it's this type of movie that is so different than most movies you're going to see.
Yeah. And I was pretty surprised. We had a pretty packed theater. It almost sold out. I mean, we bought tickets just right before the movie started.
I think you went to the theater and show like a showing after mine.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. I think we went to the same theater. And
it was packed.
Yeah, it was packed. Yeah. It was the most crowded movie we've seen since 2020, I think.
Probably. Yeah. Yeah.
I was surprised I think the other one that was one of the most packed was Terrifier.
We saw Smile. We saw that early though, so that was like a free screening, and that was completely packed. But we had to pay for it.
That was Barbarian.
It was both.
Do you guys see a lot of movies opening weekend though?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I was gonna say maybe it was just because opening weekend or
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
but that's pretty. That says a lot because that's there's a Marvel movie that's out right now. There's a handful of other movies that are drawing people to go see it, and the fact that was sold out for your show it says something.
Yeah.
I'm usually the only person in my theater, or one of the only people in my theater.
Yeah, I didn't even think they had a theater up there.
Yeah, I live in a fairly small town area, and I mean there was like 25 people in my theater, so I'm like, that's for the area, and for my experience at least. I've been here for a couple of years now and seen a bunch of movies, and I think the only other one besides this one that was like. It was the second most full theater that I've been to in this place, in this area, other than Ghostbusters Afterlife. I think was the only the last one. But yeah, it's 25 people is it's not not a lot for like a big city, but
there's only 30 people in that town, so that's pretty good.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, Joel, your rating.
Okay. So yeah, it definitely met my expectations. I wouldn't say it exceeded them because some of the jokes did fall flat, and I wasn't a fan of some of the characters in it. But I did really enjoy this one, and I will definitely watch it again at some point. So I'm going to give this one an 83.
Okay.
All right. Very good. Katrina.
All right. I am honoring the time frame of the movie and giving this an 85.
All right. I was like, where are you going?
I enjoyed it being set in 1985.
Yeah.
So
all right. Oh, nice.
Most of you probably weren't even born then, huh?
That was my birth year.
Yeah,
so that's why I'm like, 1985.
86 for me.
Yeah. Youth is wasted on the young. Look at you, baby. So beautiful.
So I had right off the bat when I was done, I was thinking, okay, what am I going to rate this? It's going to be a little lower than you guys. I'm going 78.
Yep. Okay. Yeah. I'm actually surprised it's even up there.
Yeah, that's higher than I expected. That's higher than I expected for you.
Because right away I was like, oh, well, I'd definitely watch this movie again. Like this was a fun movie and I would have fun watching this movie again and again. And Danny was like, nope, I'm never seeing this movie again.
Really?
He's like, I'm good to not see it again.
I guess I'm cool with not going out of my way and watching it. Like if let's say, the family wants to watch it or something, okay, cool. I'll participate. But I'm not going to be like by myself, I want to watch Cocaine Bear and put it on. Like that, it's not that kind of movie.
Yeah, it's not Halloween.
No, it's not Halloween, especially Halloween 5. Not Halloween 5.
So good. So good.
That's probably the movie I watch the most by myself.
Can you score above 100 with your guys' ratings? Can you go above 100? Because Halloween 5.
Yeah, that's 105.
Anyway, back to Cocaine Bear.
Yeah, I'll have to look back and see what I actually rated.
Yeah, you have to see.
But that's kind of like a
that episode, so go for it.
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna go by the Blu-ray with Chris.
Okay.
And so we will watch it again.
Listen,
all right.
Listen, I've started collecting physical media again. I'm buying many more DVDs because I love the director's cuts. I love the commentaries, the deleted scene. I love the stuff that you don't get on streaming services. I love having a physical copy of a movie that is not going to get edited or changed down the road or not be able to be found anywhere. You know,
right.
You horror fans probably want to be able to watch Cannibal Holocaust or a movie that you can't find anywhere. And it's like, if there's a movie I like, whether I may or may not ever watch it again, the former Blockbuster boy in me wants it not only for owning, but to be able to say, you haven't seen that?
Yeah. Here you go.
Go watch
it. Rent it.
Tell me what, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
$1.
And I'm going to charge late fees.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are you going to have like, oh, wait, no, you can't, because Blockbuster, the big thing was you had to make sure you were around the tape.
Kind rewind. And I did work there when there were VHS tapes still. That's how old I am.
Yes.
So, you don't have to rewind a Blu-ray, fortunately.
No.
Yeah. All right, cool. So we got some pretty good scores: 87, 83, 85, and 78. Cool.
And
I think you'd all agree too. It's a movie that it's 68. But I was going to say with that, you guys would all agree that this isn't a movie that you would give that score without the like, but it's not for, it may not be for you, or it's not for everyone. Right.
I think that's
one
most
of those movies.
I think that's just most horror in general.
Yeah.
It just like,
maybe,
it's just not, horror is a
so would you call this a horror movie also? Because I know that IMDb listed as thriller, like comedy thriller.
Yeah. I didn't know.
Tomato,
if this really does qualify.
Yeah.
I mean, if you can,
like, is Dale and Tucker versus Evil a horror movie?
I love that movie, but yes, it is.
Okay.
I definitely consider that one a horror movie, horror comedy.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So would you put this in that vein?
So
it's weird, right? Because it's like 70% comedy, 30% horror, maybe. Like most of the scenes, even when there's horrific things happening, it's not scary.
Right.
I mean, if Evil Dead 2 is, which we will be talking about that. If that is horror, then this is horror.
Yeah. Got my Evil Dead poster right there and a couple of
nice.
right here.
Very nice.
But also, like, if Jaws, like, I don't know, like, if that's horror,
there's more suspense with that. There is more suspense with Jaws. I feel like I know than there is with this one, and that does help the horror aspect part of it.
Yeah.
Were there any times in this movie where you guys had any sense of dread or jump scare or anything like that, though?
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't remember. Okay. I don't remember any times where I was like, oh man, okay, all right, like, whoo, that like.
Well, I don't know about
a lot of horror movies.
Yeah, I don't know about a jump scare, which I hate jump scares, so I'm good with that. But there was like a part where I was like, oh, don't do it.
Okay. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, there was one scene, the one part that kind of caught me off guard, which we'll talk about.
I might be thinking of the same thing. Yes. which reminds me of the Pulp Fiction thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Actually, yeah.
Yep.
We are thinking the same thing then.
Yeah.
Yeah. This one is tricky though. Like you brought up Tucker and Dale, and
we gotta review that one sometime.
Yeah. I would say that one is much more horror than this.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that one's a little easier. Like Shaun of the Dead. Like I feel like okay, that's horror comedy. Zombies are involved. Obvious.
Is it obvious?
Yeah,
there's such a fine line with the
horror.
tone, isn't there? Though.
Yeah, I don't consider that horror at all.
Yeah, no. So there's the tone of horror, but then there's the I don't know, like
it's tough because all three of those movies, Cocaine Bear, Shaun of the Dead, and Tucker and Dale.
Yeah,
they all are horror comedies, but all so different.
Yeah.
And Shaun of the Dead pulls at the heartstrings at times. Like there are parts of that make it great. Like, oh man, that got me. Cocaine Bear, I never felt like anything other than this is silly. You know, I think it only falls in that horror thriller because of the degree of violence. I think that's the only thing that puts it in that category. And so it's tough for me to like, when you say like, that's the case for any horror movie, I think yes, but I think this is one that someone like me who doesn't enjoy a large amount of horror movies can enjoy something like this because I know it's silly. I can suspend that disbelief going in, and there's no sense of me that is going to be like, the people behind me the whole movie were like, oh, come on. And I just felt like turning around being like, at this point in the movie, are you really like, oh, that wouldn't happen? And it's like, you're in the wrong movie. This is not for you.
What movie did you come to see?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that's funny. But see, there's a lot of thrillers that are very gory, or you know, a lot of violence, a lot of blood, a lot of killings.
Like Rambo, like the newer Rambo movies and stuff.
Well, and like Nobody.
Yeah,
and Bullet
John
Train.
Wick, or
yeah. I feel like horror's just kind of expanding into a lot of different territories too.
Sure, and
genres are kind of blending a lot. So,
and not not to rehash it, but that's why I think I like this movie so much, because it was so different, and it's not a movie that you can pigeonhole in one genre or category. That it just it kind of stands alone as one of those movies that's like, I don't know, like The Cabin in the Woods, or these ones that are like, yes, it's this, but it's gonna stand alone as its own thing.
Right.
It's so uniquely done. But
This one you'll remember like years down the line. Like, oh yeah, you know, kind of like a cult classic type of a feel. Okay, so let's go into some spoilers. There's some, you know, a few scenes that can you guys
before that, have we talked about negatives?
Well, we kind of did. I mean, do you want to add?
Do you have specific negatives you need?
Well, this might this might go into the spoilers, or I can maybe segue in without saying a spoiler, but I do have some concern as someone who normally doesn't really care about this, that there does seem to be a more casual depiction, portrayal, cultural, societal thing that like is like, cocaine is okay and fun and ha ha.
Yeah.
Like in songs and movies and shows. As somebody who like was never exposed to that growing up and never around any of that sort of stuff, it was always like a thing that was like, whoa, that's a hard narcotic drug. And it just seems like there's this like slow drip feed, I think is of like getting everybody to be like, nah, everyone does it. It's cool.
Yeah.
Which
that's something
if that's your thing or whatever, sure. But
I have a couple of like thoughts on that. One being, I feel like it's kind of like a sign of the times. Like, it was 1985. The 80s, like, if anything, were known for like cocaine as far as like heavy drug goes. And people weren't really too like, you know, it was more casual with it back in the 80s than it is today. People know more about the drug today than they did in the 80s. And another side of that is something that we'll talk in the spoilers, but there was a scene with that where I was like, oh, okay, well,
I think we're all talking about the same thing.
I thought something was gonna happen before that happened to like sort of cut it off or something. But
and I almost would have been fine if right when the screen went black, there was just don't do drugs. You know, as a kid, that would have been funny too, but it also would have been like it's also just like, ha ha ha, we had fun here, but seriously, you know, maybe don't do this. You know,
seeing the bear on drugs was kind of funny. Like, oh, this is what, like, feed cocaine to bears or drugs to bears, or
and they were part, and not just there was a lot of references to, oh, is this animal on drugs now? Is this one? Could you imagine? And it's kind of like, in this setting, that's all well and good. That's all fine, but you know, and it's not like me to be on a soapbox and be like, you have a moral imperative to not encourage drug use, and not at all. But it is something that I noticed where I was like, oh shit, they went there. They did that. Like,
and hopefully you're not taking your small kids to see a movie like this. Like, that's, you know, that's where
the theater
that kind
I went
of thing,
to.
Yeah, that's, you know, I mean, do what you want as parents, I guess, but it's just like, you know, should be a certain age for some of these horror movies where, you know, because kids are impressionable. You don't want to show like little kids movies like this. Like, it's fun to do drugs. And these days you can't even find cocaine. Like, it's an expensive drug anyway. So I don't know.
But you know what I mean? Like there's that whole like all the weed movies, the Half Baked and all those.
Yeah.
For decades it's been like from Cheech and Chong to the Half Baked and like there's Harold Kumar. There's like everyone agrees it's socially acceptable that like it's like this is fun, this is funny, it's harmless. Like look at these silly characters and these stoners doing this silly thing, and it's like I think it should basically stop there at that one. And if we keep going in this like I don't know. Yeah. It's just that was the one thing I was surprised at myself that I left with that sort of feeling of like, is that am I okay to like be that okay with that movie?
Yeah,
sort of thing. But I don't know.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. Okay, so let's get into spoilers.
Let's just talk about the one we're all talking about.
Okay.
Are we okay for spoilers now?
Scream.
No, I don't think they could hear it.
I didn't think so. Okay.
Oh, did you do? Oh,
yeah, we got this little sound. What is this called? Sound. I want to say sound bar, but
I know it's a sound.
Oh, you have a
board.
Oh, yeah, soundboard.
Yeah,
a soundboard. Yeah,
soundboard.
It's a hard
soundboard bite.
Bar. Okay, anyways, but it doesn't come through on Zoom for whatever reason.
Okay, so I was quiet with the cocaine talk because I wanted to say it during spoilers.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
So the like, especially with the kids, using it and like it being just brushed off so much as like
and almost like joked about.
Yeah.
Like, and I know you guys did drugs.
And like, so I at the beginning, the fact that they even like had, I mean, I liked that they didn't know exactly how to do cocaine. That was great. But they had even the thought of wanting to do it. I'm like, how old are these kids? They look heckin' young.
And I had it didn't even reach my brain consideration. And Joel, I think you made an excellent point. I think it is like this was 40 years ago.
Yeah.
And I just think the social expectations of that were not as, this was pre like Reagan say no to drugs campaign thing. I think they do
which they mention
this is your brain on drugs thing, show some of that stuff. But this is like right in all that era, and so it is, I guess you're right, like it was a different time where maybe it was not as like, I don't know, looked down upon, maybe
frowned upon, but like people then didn't really understand. I don't think most people understood really like what it meant, what cocaine meant in the 80s, which is kind of weird that like, at least for me, the 80s, when I think of cocaine, I think of the 80s. Like there's no other decade where cocaine was as prevalent as the 80s. Like there's other drugs like marijuana.
I always looked at the 80s as like the cocaine hangover from the 70s. Maybe that's just me. Like I felt like late 70s it was really big, like the kind of Woodstocky kind of, and then like the 80s was like we're all so messed up from all the drugs we did in the 70s that we're gonna think that this music and this fashion is cool, and it really isn't.
Well, and the Coke was like bigger in maybe the earlier part, but then it was like crack is what got really bad in the 80s.
Right.
I feel like.
And I guess the thing in this movie that, yes, if we all agree that it was a different time and maybe kids then and yada yada yada, but to put them doing it in a movie today,
that was a little gross.
It has to just be for shock value, right? But you see them like, and you're just waiting for the no, never mind, or the slap of the hand, or them to get distracted.
Yeah,
and left with the were they going to do it? But then they
do it. They
show it. They show it.
Yeah.
And then he even has the like,
and my throat's dripping.
Yeah.
And they're not the only adolescents in the movie who partake heavily in drug use.
Yeah.
As long as we're talking spoilers, the one twist of the movie, I'd say, right? Well, one of a couple is the little other children that do drugs in the movie.
Yeah.
The like bears. Yes. The little bear cubs.
Oh, yeah.
The little cubs.
They're super into it. Yeah.
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 And they're like having so much fun on it. You know, they're
like playing in it.
Playing around and
you felt like the mama bear and the cubs never got along until they were introduced to cocaine, and now they're all like a happy family.
Yeah. Well, and it even showed the like bear having a bunch of fun on it and everything. So it made it look like, okay, cocaine is fun, man. Like,
I think I heard somebody say that, like, oh, Elizabeth Banks parties. Like, you don't make this movie and have like a no experience or a negative or a no opinion of cocaine. You make this movie because you enjoy cocaine.
Yeah. Well, and the people who were sitting next to us were all like, oh yeah, remember when we used to do coke? And it was like, wow, this is like a cokehead movie.
Right.
Like flashbacks.
Wow, okay.
Younger days.
Oh man.
They were thinking it was
so what was your favorite kill? What was your favorite kill?
For me it was the ambulance. Well, pretty much when when the EMTs came
Margot Martindale.
Oh
yeah.
All the way through to the end of them was my favorite part of the movie. That whole segment.
Do you guys know who the mustache ambulance guy was?
He looked familiar.
He did look familiar.
The whole movie, it was bothering me, and I finally looked it up. He's like a YouTube, TikTok, like famous guy. And his character's angry retail guy. It's just like a close up of him, like,
oh my god,
being like a crappy retail employee. He's really funny, but it was one of those things. And
his TikTok.
Yeah. So I thought after I made that connection, I'm like, oh, that's kind of, it's cool that he got that. It was like his first movie,
Okay.
But him with his hand hanging off, fighting the bear. I thought that was hilarious.
Yeah.
Margot Martindale going face down, sliding across the pavement. That's what I'm saying is that, like, it was a lot. They could have just had bear maulings. And they found a different way. There was decapitation and there was gut spilling and all sorts of stuff. But they threw in, Katrina, the thing I think you were referencing, that one shocking death.
She tries to shoot the bear.
And you just see.
And she's like, I didn't mean to.
Yeah. I thought it was funny too. They show up to the scene and they're like, I thought the call was about a concussion. And there's a guy there with half his head.
That was probably my favorite.
Yeah.
That was probably my favorite kill. The one that like just caught me off guard. It wasn't even a bear attack. It was her like shooting the guy in the head. Like that just completely caught me off guard. And like, I was gonna say so I was thinking like move out, get out of the way or something, but she's I would have thought that she would have known how to handle a gun better than that. Like the bear wasn't.
She was a park ranger.
Moving.
It's park ranger.
And I think that was the funny part of it. It was like, because they even said park rangers can have a gun, and she was like, so they made kind of a joke.
I thought there was they were like right at the precipice of a funny joke, like when she first comes back and the punks are in there and they're like, oh, he got to you too, and she's like, he bit my ass. And they're talking about Ice Cube's son. And she's talking about the bear. And maybe it was because it would have maybe gone too far, but I thought there would have been, because it was a black bear, so her some reference of her being like, oh, this thing, and then being like, yeah, I agree. And there could have been a funny misunderstanding dialogue. Maybe that would have been too much.
Well, no, there was, but the black reference.
Right.
Yeah.
There wasn't, and that's what I'm saying. I think there were a lot of jokes that, like, I don't know, maybe they were done that way on purpose, where like either you got it or you didn't, and when you watch it a second time, maybe you'll get it. You know,
see, but I think that was the beauty of it. That's what I was talking about, where they didn't try too hard. It was like it was like this misunderstanding that you actually would have. And so they didn't put extra lines in there to like
her line about the Dusty Beaver was, and I laughed out loud. There was a lot of
comedy these days is really hard. You have to really like tiptoe around that kind of thing in movies.
Absolutely.
Which really sucks, because I mean that's, you know, you can't really do comedies these days like you used to be able to do, because, you know, you're gonna offend everybody.
That's why I buy those DVDs, Joel.
Yeah.
Yeah,
might not be able to watch it anymore.
Yeah.
The line where they have that misunderstanding, and she like takes off, and he's like, "What the hell was wrong with this guy?" You know, because he thinks that it's, you know, that dude that to her.
Yeah, that was so funny.
Yeah, I thought that was awesome.
So what was the death that we were talking about earlier, and you said you mentioned spoilers?
The so the first kill was like so heartbreaking to me. Not the first one, not the first
guy
one, Joel.
flying out of the
not the in the head, but the fiance. It was so sad, and I
think that's what I was saying about that. I thought that aspects dialogue wise, it was such a well written movie, because it was 5-6 maybe lines of them talking about what they want to name their kids, and you got in a few minutes that these two were so in love and so happy and so enjoying of life and the world. And then you throw in like the thing about his brother's band being, you know, wanting to be played in the way, and so sometimes they would throw little jokes in there, but that was a gut punch, right? Where you're just like, I almost would have been okay if he had got taken out, not her, right? Like,
I know, that was so sad. And then they even went back to it later, where he was like still there crying about her being gone. It was like, oh man.
So another funny fact and reference. I don't know if you guys watched Game of Thrones. That actor, very different character in this than he was on Game of Thrones. He was like a badass, like big, tough. Where at one point he has a throwaway reference, a line that he once got drunk and made love to a bear in Game of Thrones, and so it was a funny sort of connection. It was a funny line. Because he was such a different character. He was very meek.
And there's also like a million different actors like in that show that, you know.
That's true. I mean, he was still one of the like you if you look up his IMDb, you recognize him and be like, oh yeah, no, that guy. And the little kid was super funny. He's from Sweet Tooth. Did you guys ever watch that Netflix show?
No. I heard about it, but I haven't watched it.
I liked it a lot.
So they wouldn't like it.
That's true. Never mind. I liked it a lot. You guys would hate it. But a funny swearing kid in a movie, that's always going to give me a chuckle, you know?
You didn't
so
like
maybe
it
don't
much.
do the cocaine, but was it too much?
Just that whole thing. Oh, it's funny because he's cussing. I don't know. I just overplayed to me. So I didn't find it that funny. His some other stuff that he was saying was funny. Like when he was talking about, you know, so what's the like long-term effects, and you know, he was kind of talking with the mom, the Carrie Russell character. Like their interaction was funny when they were looking for her daughter. I thought that stuff was funny, but just him cussing, like screaming.
See, I didn't notice that being such a big deal, but you were like really turned off by that. You were like, it's overdone. It's done.
Yeah, it was one of those like, okay, like you're trying to, you're going for this.
I guess the first one when he's in the tree and he says like the big F-bomb, whatever, like but then time 2, 3, and 4, I get it sort of played out a little.
See, I don't know that I even remember the tree part, but like the part that I thought was like, well, I I could understand how funny it was because when he was yelling at the drug lord, and it's like this little guy is like, I am done.
I'm tired.
I'm tired.
I liked that part
because he's been saying all day since they first got there, like, oh, I'm tired,
hungry, didn't want to go.
And
so that scene in the
eating a bunch because he was high. Is that what they were trying to show?
That's what I was just thinking. Hungry?
I don't think so because that's not like a side effect of cocaine. I think that they were just he's a kid and he didn't bring his backpack with him, and so right when they got there, he's like, Did your mom pack you a extra lunch? Because my dad didn't give me one. He said so. I think he was just hungry all day.
Oh man! So that scene that you were talking about, the gut punch scene, the first kill scene, it didn't have that effect on me because they kind of showed that in the trailer. They showed her getting dragged away in the trailer,
right?
So I figured like when I saw a couple people with like their backpacks, like their camping gear, I was like, okay, she's gonna get dragged away. You didn't allow yourself
to connect.
I didn't allow myself to feel.
I remember right when I saw them, I knew also from the trailer and also just opening scene of a horror movie, like these two are dead.
Someone's got to die.
But them like talking about they were just so in love and innocent and like everyone else, like the ranger and the idiot like EPA guy who comes, the guy from Modern Family, like. It's just like, I don't care. Yeah, sure. The idiot kids, the teenagers, sure. Kill them.
They were my least favorite part of the movie. The three of them, like, they were so annoying.
That was the point.
Well, the one that ended up going on the little trail with them, and they were doing 21 questions. The 21 questions is killing me. I was having so much fun with that. But
Abraham Lincoln,
that guy, that whole thing, that threesome, that was really fun for me. I did start liking that guy. But the other one was like the dog guy. It was pretty sad to see him get shot.
That was the one that I was.
Did he die though? I think he died, but I don't know.
He did.
Yeah, he died. I mean, I think so.
It took him a while to die, but I mean, he definitely
he laid there and he like, as the camera was pulling away, they show him like closing his eyes, but it is not that it matters or I really care, but it is one of those deaths that should they make a sequel with him in it, they could easily say that he's
well, they could make a sequel to where it's goats that are on cocaine now because he
and that was a funny thing where he like grabbed the bag again and was like, no, I'm not.
Or Cocaine Cubs sequel to Cocaine Bears.
It was sad for me. It was sad to see like the bears, the cubs getting the cocaine. Like I was like, oh great,
they're ruined.
Like this. Like that was sad.
Drug babies.
Like they had their whole life.
Also, what does paint the waterfall? Like were they going to paint?
That's what
they said that so many times, and I have no idea what it is still.
So I was wondering, like, I'm curious how many people in Georgia were excited about this movie because it takes place there, you know, and how much that is going to be like a reference that they're like, oh yeah, I love going and painting the waterfall.
I mean, did they mean like take out a canvas and like paint the water?
Well, I thought it was like because she had paint like it, you know, like when you go on a color run and it's like the powdered
paint.
It looked like it was that kind of paint, so it seemed like
so
they
like pour it in the waterfall
and then make the waterfall colorful.
That's exactly what I thought
which
too,
would be freaking fun. Like
sure,
I'm like, hey, I want to do that.
It just seemed odd that they referenced it so much and but I guess they had to so that she could have the paint to leave
lead the trail. Okay, so the painting the waterfall was like an obsession in this movie, and the dog, like getting this dog, and
so random.
Like I'm like, they really obsessed over these minor details that were they that important?
Yeah.
You know,
I just tried to look
was
up
just,
paint
I think
waterfalls.
again,
It's just things about like painting.
It's Bob Ross. Yeah, it's Bob Ross painting a waterfall. I think the dog again was just to be able to give Eddie the pet to give his son Gabe at the end to be like, you know.
There was one joke with the dog that I thought was pretty funny. It was towards the end. Ray Liotta's like with him now, and someone said that they left the dog in the car, and he goes, "You left the dog in the car?" And the son's
like, "You left my son in St. Louis." Yeah, you left my son in St. Louis. Yeah.
Okay, that's
I also thought I thought the last scene with the dog where it's like, what's he eating? And the guy's like,
oh yeah,
and he realized that he got his fingers.
Yeah. Oh yeah. When the dog was running from car to car, I really thought he was going to get hit by a car or something, like, because it just showed him or showed her just like running to the car. I was like, this dog's going to die. There's no way. And he didn't. But yeah. Like, this is the type of movie that you would do that.
right. It easily could happen. Another line that I liked that I did think was funny was when the cop shoots Ice Cube's son and shoots off his fingers.
How'd you get those two fingers?
They're not even connected.
Yeah. They're not even together.
That was funny.
I like that.
Yeah. I might be a little bit more tickled by crass humor, but I think in that same scene when they're like, "Well, is he alive?" And it's like, "It's a she." He's like, "How do you know?"
Yeah.
I thought that was good.
Yeah.
So there was times where I didn't laugh out loud, like guffawing, but I just found myself really taking a step back and be like, man, I'm really enjoying this movie. I'm laughing. That last kill I thought was cool. It looked cool. I don't know. It was a movie that
had a good time
that I just really enjoyed. Yeah.
Okay, so let's look at some fun facts here for this one. It'll be the last kind of piece of the review.
So is that the new thing that we're gonna do each time?
We were doing this for a little while before you joined. And then I kind of forgot about it, I think, because our reviews have been a little longer.
Okay.
So but I want to go back to it because usually there is some fun stuff. Okay, so Ray Liotta's Ray Liotta's final completed film role is this movie. Before his tragic passing on May 26, 2022, Liotta passed away a week after he came to re-record his lines in post-production.
Oh,
wow.
Elizabeth Banks says that Liotta praised the look of the bear when he got a look at the creature.
So what did he die from?
Do you guys know?
He died in his sleep filming on location in some movie, and I don't know. A lot of times with high-profile celebrities, they never say exactly.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's because it's something they don't want attached to their legacy. Or are you thinking he took some?
I was like, hopefully it wasn't
a
some
cocaine home with him.
overdose.
Yeah.
He was in Blow again.
Yep.
I just saw him in the series Blackbird, which was his last TV show that he filmed, and he looked rough in that. But I think that's more he was playing a character that had a stroke and was older and stuff. But I thought he looked great in this. I thought the long hair and the yellow glasses. I'm like, this is Ray Liotta gangster.
Right. Okay, so Cocaine Bear was intended to be a temporary working title. The producers decided to release it under the name as they couldn't think of anything else. Quotation.
I think that's great. I think it's just it's on the nose, but no pun intended. I remember when I first heard this story, there's like a nickname that they gave this bear. Who's
Pablo Escobar,
the drug lord from
Pablo
Escobar. Yes. Funny little.
I just came across
is that part of it? I'm sorry, I didn't step on your fun facts. Yeah.
Nice.
They used that line in the movie too. I'm pretty sure.
Oh, maybe they did.
Someone said Pablo Escobar.
Oh, I think it was in the newsreel maybe at the beginning.
Could have been.
Yeah.
So yeah, a couple of these things, Chris, you already mentioned the Americans kind of reunion that this movie had.
I
and
love
then the
Margot
Jefferson
Robin.
Starship.
I think she's great in everything she's in. Yeah.
Okay.
You saw her in The Leftovers. She was amazing.
Yeah, that's right. She what's her?
That's a
Park
great
Ranger
show.
was
It
in
is.
The Leftovers.
Yeah.
She was
Great
the
show.
yeah.
Mhm.
She's on
Totally forgot about
Justified.
that.
She's great on Justified.
Nice.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Haven't seen that.
She always
movie.
kind of reminds me of Kathy Bates.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, those are the
The
main good ones that we
yeah,
have.
and I think I had heard that it was like the real life bear had ingested like $3 million worth of cocaine and instantly died of a heart attack or whatever. And
Yeah.
I think the movie planted the seeds of a potential sequel. Obviously, not all the duffel bags were. I like that throughout the movie, you see characters walking and there's like, oh, there's a duffel bag there.
Yeah.
Or like, oh, there's a little, so it's like it never all got found. And I think in the true story, they said that the only cocaine they ever found was the one attached to the guy, the parachuter.
Right.
And like that there's still to this day duffel bags in the Georgia mountains.
They did mention that at the end.
Yeah, they said
that. Little.
Oh, that was nothing. That's what. Yeah. So I don't know. I hope they do more movies like this, similar to the like Prey did with taking a horror franchise and putting it in a different time period.
Yeah,
like taking a true story that may not have a lot going for it and putting it in a funny or silly, hyperbolic situation. I hope they do more stuff like this.
The fun thing about it. Go ahead, Joel.
Oh, sorry. I was just I forgot about one other like funny moment that it was like the opening scene. It was like slightly after when he knocked himself out and fell out of the plane. But when you get like the writing, like the facts of like what happens, and one of the things was if you are attacked by a bear, it's easier to survive if you fight back than if you play dead. And it was by Wikipedia.
Yes, source Wikipedia.
Source Wikipedia.
Yeah.
Because that's not true.
Yeah. And even the hiker or whatever the beginning said, if it's black, attack, if it's brown, lay down. Like it's like, okay, that makes sense. That would be like a camper thing or hiker thing to
Yeah, and it was so funny because then he's like, is it black or brown? Is that black or brown?
Yeah, she's like, I don't know. It's like a blackish brown.
It's a dark brown.
He's like, whatever you do, don't. And she's like, run.
Yeah.
But the funny thing about like it being loosely based off a true story is like, especially when you say that like all that really happened was this bear got cocaine and died of a heart attack, is I can just imagine how the story came to be of like, let's make a movie of this. Because they're like just sitting around like, oh my gosh, what if the bear actually like was high on cocaine? Like what would that actually do? And, coming up with all the different scenes and funny stuff that could happen.
And it's probably one of those things because it happened again almost 40 years ago and it wasn't it's not like this story just came out. They did a news report on it when it happened in the 80s, whatever. So like I'm sure it's one of those things where that an urban legend has sort of been evolved out of this story of like, oh, I heard that it developed a drinking problem too, and
the story always gets bigger and bigger every time you tell it, right? So
I liked the way that like how the guy could like tell that something was wrong with the bear because the bear was like banging it.
Oh, that was funny.
Like it's disturbed. It's disturbed. And then after it does its horrible thing in the first scene, it's just chilling there and a butterfly flies by and it's just like,
follows,
boom. Okay. So one of the other things I was going to say is that I think it's interesting. Another reason why maybe they added the silliness to it and that didn't do the close-up, as much of the close-up uber violent, is like there were 2 Funko Pops that came out for this thing. Like these guys right here.
Oh,
like they're making Funko Pops for it. Like they there was a Mondo. Wow. I don't know if you like Mondo posters, but they made like a Mondo poster for it. And it's like, because you made a movie that's like this, that's like a fun, silly movie, you can do those things. You can, there will be shirts that people wear. It'll be like the fun cultural, like Sharknado, like those things. So there is sort of a marketing genius also to the fact that Elizabeth Banks said, I'm going to make it this kind of movie, as opposed to a serious, like, what if this really were the case, or too silly and not bloody graphic. I think it really scratches the itch of like movie nerds or like real movie fans. You know, people who like just want to see that thing that, like, I don't know, triggers something in them. They're like, I've never seen a movie like that before. I'm gonna go buy this shirt or this poster or this Funko Pop or whatever. Like, and I thought that it did that well. Like, I'm waiting to see, like, is there gonna be a fun DVD cover for it? Like, you know, like, this is the kind of movie that will do those sort of things, you know?
Yeah. There's endless possibilities with the products that can be made, and the shirts and the posters and the toys and for sure. And I could see a sequel. I think this movie is going to do
I don't think they will. I almost hope they don't, but I can see it.
Yeah, I think it's going to do well. We'll find out how well, but that usually is a good sign for a sequel. So we'll see. I hope they don't either.
Well, I hope not a sequel. Maybe just like more.
Well,
movies like
more.
They did say they're doing
movies.
Meth Gator, right? Is that what meth?
I heard something like
Gator?
that. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I don't know if I would.
Which would be kind of fun.
I think that's the unfortunate byproduct of things like this, is that everyone is like, oh, that's a new thing. Let's do that. And it's like, no, you can't bottle lightning twice like that. They did it.
It's done. All right, cool. Well, I think that's it for this one. It looks like we all pretty much enjoyed it pretty well. So go ahead and check this one out. I think you guys will like it if you agree with some of what we're saying, if it's your thing.
Hopefully, if you're still listening to it, you've already checked it out.
True. Yeah.
Right, because we've
already done spoilers.
I'll tell you what, there were a couple. There was another twist we didn't mention. There's a couple other things that, even if you haven't seen it and you're hearing this, there are so many other jokes, fun kills. Another twist I can think of off the top of my head, like things that you will still get out of it if you haven't seen it. So I definitely recommend it.
So still go see it.
Yeah.
So we didn't say who lives and who dies, so that's still
right.
Yeah.
I don't think we went over anybody that really died.
Well, we talked about it. But and then we're starting to do some of these video ones now. We're trying to do these going forward. So if you're listening on the podcasting apps or Spotify or Apple or something, go check us out on YouTube as well if you want to see what we look like. If you've been listening to us for the last few years, might want to know what we look like. And Chris, he has a beautiful beard.
It is.
Yeah, and hey, while you're there, like, subscribe, smash that bell. Give these guys some counts,
do all that stuff.
Hit that bell.
Right. And Joel,
check out our Patreon, or maybe not yet. You guys.
Oh yeah,
you'll get.
We do have one. But
what is that?
Yeah.
it's where the listeners or viewers can, subscribe to a monthly thing where they pay, and then we give them shout outs and get them on the show, and they can choose episodes that we do, and different things like that.
Okay, well, come on.
I hope that this episode gives you a big listener bump, and that's the last cocaine pun I'm gonna make.
Nice, good one.
Thank you guys so much for letting me talk about this movie. I saw it 24 hours ago, and I've done nothing but want to talk about it and watch it again since then. So thank you for letting me release all of that in podcast form. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, it was really fun.
It was.
All right, so and look out, we're going through the Evil Dead series, so look for all those episodes coming.
Yeah,
we got Scream 6 coming soon.
6 coming up.
Yep, and we're getting ready for the new Evil Dead Rise. So look out for that.
Even in the previews for Cocaine Bear, there's a handful of horror movies. 65.
Renfield.
There's like some other big horror movies coming
Renfield.
out. Renfield. We're right at the cusp of that summer release big movie. So you guys are going to have a lot of great stuff to talk about, I think.
Yeah.
All right, cool. All right, this has been Scare Talk.
I was always trying to end the episode super fast.
I know.
Don't do drugs.
Fast.
Don't do drugs.
Yeah,
don't do drugs, kids.
Drugs, guys.
Yeah, don't do drugs.
I agree. I highly agree with that.
All right, this has been our review on Cocaine Bear, and this has been Scare Talk.
Sleep tight.
Say it if you know.
Don't let the cocaine bite.
Bears bite.